It is March 8, 1971. A small group of ordinary citizens are crowded into an apartment, not watching TV, but staring at the floor plan of an FBI office in Media, Pennsylvania.
And their cover story is watching a boxing match. That is commitment.
The biggest boxing match in history, the fight of the century. They are banking on everyone, including the police, being too distracted to notice a little break-in. They force the door with a crowbar, their hearts pounding with the adrenaline of it. They are not criminals. They are professors and activists who suspect the government is breaking the law. They grab every single file, thousands of documents, stuffing them into suitcases. They don't know what they will find, but what is hidden in those pages will expose a secret war the FBI was waging against its own people.
Those stolen documents exposed COINTELPRO, the FBI's top-secret counterintelligence program. It was created and personally directed by the legendary FBI director, J. Edgar Hoover, and ran from 1956 until 1971.
And the official line was national security, right? Protecting the country from subversive threats, which in the 50s meant one thing.
Let me guess, communists. It is always communists.
Exactly. But the files revealed the program's real targets weren't just Soviet spies. They were American citizens, civil rights leaders, anti-war protesters, student activists, even the American Indian movement.
Hold on. So the FBI was running counterintelligence against its own citizens. What was the mission, in their own words?
The FBI's own memos stated the goal was to discredit, disrupt, and destroy these groups. Not to prosecute crimes, but to neutralize political dissent entirely. The program started in 1956, and you were right, Casey, it had a laser focus, the Communist Party of the United States. This was the height of the Cold War, the Red Scare was in full swing.
So Hoover used that climate of fear. He argued that a domestic political party was an existential threat that gave him the justification he needed to act outside the law.
It is the perfect boogeyman. You can justify any budget increase if you just say the word communist loud enough in a meeting.
And the man saying it, J. Edgar Hoover, was director of the FBI for 48 years. He wasn't just an administrator, he viewed political dissent as a literal disease threatening the country.
He built the modern FBI and ran it as his personal fiefdom. He believed he was the sole arbiter of who was a patriot and who was a threat.
48 years. That is not a job, that is a dynasty. No wonder he thought he was the king of America.
In his eyes, he was, and COINTELPRO was his personal secret police force to cure that disease of dissent. By the 1960s, Hoover's list of diseases grew, the program expanded. Officially, they added groups like the Ku Klux Klan to their targets.
Which sounds good on paper, but where did the resources actually go?
The files show that while the KKK was a target, the vast majority of effort was aimed at the New Left, anti-war groups, the Socialist Workers' Party, and especially what Hoover's memos called black nationalist hate groups.
So they are saying they are going after the bad guys in the white hoods, but they are actually going after college kids with protest signs and black leaders demanding basic rights classic.
And the tactics were straight out of a spy thriller, but used on American soil against citizens. We are talking pure psychological warfare.
They sent anonymous letters to spouses to break up marriages. They used informants to create internal paranoia and violent conflict within groups. They leaked false or embarrassing information to friendly journalists to ruin reputations.
So their job was to be the ultimate trolls, the world's most powerful, government-funded trolls.
It went far beyond trolling. This was a systematic effort to dismantle people's lives and destroy movements from the inside out, using the full power of the state.
And the most chilling part, all of this was done in near total secrecy. There was no public knowledge, no congressional approval, no judicial warrants for most of it.
So it was a rogue operation within the FBI, accountable to no one.
Accountable to one person, Hoover. It was his kingdom, his rules. National security was whatever J. Edgar Hoover decided it was on any given morning.
That is way too much power for one dude, especially a dude who apparently never took a vacation for 48 years.
And that brings us to one of the program's most infamous targets, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.
Wait, not just the activist groups, but King himself.
Hoover was obsessed. A 1968 internal memo from Hoover refers to King as the most dangerous Negro in America. He authorized a full court press of surveillance against him.
That meant illegal wiretaps on his home and office phones, and bugs planted in his hotel rooms wherever he traveled, all to find any scrap of information they could use to discredit him.
But they didn't just listen. In 1964, they sent King an anonymous package. Inside was a tape of his alleged infidelities and a letter.
The letter told him there was only one way out, and urged him to commit suicide before the tapes were released, effectively trying to blackmail a Nobel Peace Prize winner into killing himself.
That is one of the darkest things we have ever covered on this show. That is not a conspiracy, that is a hitman leaving a note.
And as the civil rights movement grew, so did Hoover's paranoia. COINTELPRO's focus shifted heavily toward the Black Panther Party, which Hoover designated a black nationalist hate group.
There is an internal FBI memo from that period that is just chilling. It states a primary goal is to prevent the rise of a messiah who could unify and electrify the movement. They weren't just disrupting a group, they were trying to decapitate a potential leader before he even emerged.
A messiah? You know your organization is making an impact when the FBI is officially scared you are going to produce a messiah?
Their obsession was total. They monitored every aspect of the Panthers' activities, including their community outreach. We have a field report from San Diego from 1972 about their free breakfast for children program.
They were surveilling a program that gave free breakfast to kids. The FBI classified feeding hungry children as a potential threat, a tool for political indoctrination.
They were investigating breakfast, the feds versus toast. That is not just evil, it is insane.
Which brings us to Fred Hampton. He was the 21-year-old deputy chairman of the Illinois Black Panther Party. He was charismatic, a powerful speaker, and he was successfully building coalitions across racial lines. To the FBI, he was the messiah they feared.
So following the COINTELPRO playbook, they couldn't just arrest him. They had to neutralize him. They recruited an informant, a man named William Monell, to get inside Hampton's inner circle.
Monell became Hampton's bodyguard, and in that position of trust, he provided his FBI handler with a detailed floor plan of Hampton's apartment. He specifically marked the location of Fred Hampton's bed.
It wasn't just intelligence, it was a kill map. That floor plan was then used by the Chicago police to plan a raid.
His own bodyguard drew them a map to his bed. That is a level of betrayal. It is Shakespearean. It is just awful.
And on December 4, 1969, using that map, Chicago police stormed the apartment in a pre-dawn raid. Fred Hampton and Mark Clark were killed in a barrage of gunfire.
A federal investigation later determined that police fired over 90 shots. The Panthers, who were mostly asleep, fired maybe one.
90-1. That is not a shootout. That is an execution.
And it wasn't just black liberation groups. COINTELPRO also went after the New Left and the anti-Vietnam War movement with the same ruthless tactics.
We have an internal FBI document from 1968. It explicitly suggests sending anonymous letters to university administrators to pressure them into firing professors who supported student protests.
It even threatens that if the university doesn't comply, the author of the letter will publicly expose the professor's activities themselves. It is a direct threat.
So the FBI is now the world's most terrifying HR department, writing poison pen performance reviews to get teachers fired. That is a new one.
And for 15 years, all of this remained a closely guarded secret. The program's existence was completely unknown to the public until the burglary we described in the opening.
The Citizens Commission to investigate the FBI, as the burglars called themselves, leaked the files to journalists. For the first time, the word COINTELPRO appeared in print, and the country was forced to reckon with what its government was doing in the shadows.
So the thing that finally exposed the FBI's illegal spying was a completely illegal burglary. The universe has a fantastic sense of irony.
All right, let us draw the line. First, it is an established, undeniable fact that the FBI ran a covert and often illegal program called COINTELPRO from 1956 to 1971. This isn't a theory. It is confirmed by thousands of pages of the FBI's own internal documents.
There is no other side to this. The program existed. The documents are real. Many are now public at the National Archives and online.
So, what you are saying is, for once, the conspiracy is just the truth. The call is coming from inside the Bureau.
Second, the methods are also confirmed fact. We know from the files that the program used illegal wiretapping, paid informants to sow dissent, psychological warfare, like the suicide letter, and outright perjury to disrupt and neutralize domestic political groups.
These weren't investigative techniques designed to solve crimes. They were offensive weapons used to dismantle organizations and ruin lives.
That is not a list of law enforcement tactics. That is the playbook for a mob boss. It is just missing cement shoes.
Third, let us be clear about the targets. Confirmed while the program started with communists, Its main focus was on black liberation movements, the American Indian movement, and anti-war activists.
The FBI's own resource allocation proves it. The threat wasn't foreign agents. It was domestic dissent.
So less James Bond and more. Let us harass people asking for the right to vote. Got it.
Fourth, and this cannot be overstated, the FBI's direct, causal involvement in the assassination of Fred Hampton is a confirmed fact.
Their informant, William Wennell, provided the map used to plan the raid. Without COINTELPRO, Fred Hampton would have woken up on December 5th.
This is the point where it stops being a program and starts being a murder plot. There is no joke here. They didn't just watch. They actively helped.
Which leads to the final verdict. The official justification of protecting national security was a lie. It was a pretext.
The overwhelming evidence from the FBI's own files shows the program's true purpose to illegally neutralize political dissent and maintain a specific unequal social and political order.
It wasn't about protecting America. It was about protecting a very specific version of America for the people who were already in charge.
And the fallout? Confirmed, COINTELPRO was officially terminated in 1971, but only after the media burglary forced it into the light.
The public outrage was so immense it led to the 1975 Church Committee hearings in the Senate, which investigated and publicly condemned the FBI for its widespread, systemic abuse of power.
So it takes a felony burglary and a full-blown congressional investigation just to get the FBI to stop breaking the law. That is reassuring.
And that is the lasting damage. The legacy of COINTELPRO is a deep, justified, and persistent distrust of government authority, especially within Black and activist communities.
It is the ultimate proof for anyone who believes the system is rigged, because here, for 2 decades, it demonstrably was.
This is exactly why, when someone says, "I am from the government and I am here to help," a whole lot of people instinctively check for a wire. This is Exhibit A.
It is the historical anchor for every modern fear about government surveillance. Every debate we have now about the NSA, the Patriot Act, or monitoring online activity, it all happens in the shadow of COINTELPRO.
Because it is the one time we have proof. The government didn't just spy, it declared a covert war on its own citizens for exercising their rights.
It is like finding out the prequel to your favorite social media app was just a guy in a van listening to your parents' phone calls. The technology changes, the business model doesn't.
From a purely bureaucratic standpoint, you have to see this as Hoover's personal key performance indicator. His job wasn't just solving crime, it was neutralizing dissent.
The FBI effectively became a national HR department. Their job was to get people fired, ruin their marriages, and discredit them in their communities.
The darkest HR department in history, neutralizing employment. That is a corporate euphemism for we are going to make sure you can never work in this town again.
And that is the core lesson. COINTELPRO is a perfect case study in how secrecy and unchecked power inevitably corrupt.
The very agency created to enforce the law became one of its greatest violators, all while waving the flag and claiming patriotism.
If you want more of this kind of thing, actual evidence, actual context, actual weirdness, we are here every week. Subscribe and hit the bell so you don't miss the next one.
The program was officially shut down in 1971, but the mindset never really went away. COINTELPRO is a permanent scar on American history, a reminder of how fragile our civil liberties really are.
Next week, we are going from a secret war to a secret society that is supposedly behind everything. We are asking if it all connects back to the Freemasons.
Until then, stay vigilant.
And check your toaster for bugs. You never know.